In the hills of Abruzzo, where the roads wind like pale ribbons through olive trees and stone walls, there's a small village with a quiet kind of stubbornness. The mornings are cold. The evenings can feel even colder.
And tucked between shuttered homes sits a bakery with its door shut, hard, final, unanswered, like it's been holding its breath for over 40 years.
The window is plain. The shutters are sometimes half drawn. But every single year, on one night in December, something changes.
A candle appears in that window. Not a festival, not a parade, no bright signs, just one small flame, steady as a heartbeat, glowing in the dark where an oven should be hot and alive.
People in the village don't agree on much. They don't agree on the weather, or the best way to cure a ham, or whether the younger generation knows how to fix a leaky tap. But when you ask about that candle, everyone leans the same way, towards silence.
If you catch the old men playing cards in the piazza, they go quiet mid-hand. Their voices thin out like smoke. One will stare at his cards a little too long. Another will tap the table and shrug, as if you asked about something impolite, something sacred.
If you ask the women at the market, they don't argue with you. They just cross themselves quickly, like pulling a thread of fear or respect through the air, and then may steer the conversation elsewhere, toward onions, toward prices, toward how the wind has been mean this week.
But if you're patient and you buy the right person a glass of wine, and you wait until the second or third sip loosens the story in their throat, then you hear it.
The story of Assunta the baker. The night one loaf of bread, or rather one small miracle made from almost nothing, saved an entire village from starving.
And once you understand it, you understand something else too. Why some Italian families still refuse to throw away stale bread. Not out of habit, out of memory. It was December 1944. Winter had teeth.
In the hills around Santa Rosa, because the real name is still spoken carefully like a family secret, the war hadn't truly left yet. It was still moving through Italy the way water moves through cracks. Slow, persistent, impossible to stop.
Soldiers came first one side, then the other. German troops passed through, then Allied troops, then more uncertainty, more requisitions, more takeaways that felt less like supplies and more like theft from the future.
By December, Santa Rosa had nearly nothing left to hide.
Grain had been stripped from the fields. What wasn't carried away was trampled. What wasn't trampled was burned or confiscated. The mill had run out. Churches that once stored grain for winter had empty rooms.
Kitchens, everywhere, felt like mouths without food.
Mothers tried to invent bread from whatever they could scrape together. Chestnuts, ground into a coarse, bitter powder, became something like flour. Children fell asleep with their stomachs hurting, not from sickness, but from emptiness.
And in the middle of the village stood the bakery. Assunta ran it. She was a woman with hands that knew work the way some people knew prayers. Her husband had gone to fight and hadn't come home, so it was just Assunta and her two daughters, 9 and 12 years old, learning dough and heat and timing the way other kids learned letters. Before the war, the smell of her bread drifted through the streets every morning. You could tell where you were in the village by that scent alone. People spoke about her loaves with pride, like her oven was a kind of heartbeat for Santa Rosa.
Now the oven was cold most days.
Not because Assunta didn't want to bake, because there was nothing to bake. No flour, no yeast, not enough of anything. The evenings were the hardest. Everyone could feel the cupboards losing the last of their dignity, one empty shelf after another. And yet, the village still woke the next day. People still had to wake. Children still had to grow, even when their bodies begged them not to. Then, on the 15th of December, exactly the date the old women insist on, someone arrived at Assunta's door. A farmer named Domenico. He was breathless, cheeks raw from cold air and fear. He carried something wrapped in cloth, cradled against his chest like a baby he couldn't bear to lose. His boots left wet prints on the stone.
Flour. Not much flour. Just enough, if everything went perfectly, for perhaps 2 or 3 loaves. Maybe less. Enough for a desperate day. Not enough for a hungry winter.
But it was flour that had survived because Domenico had hidden it.
For months, he'd managed to bury a small sack of wheat beneath his cellar floor, tucked away where soldiers weren't looking, and where he could pretend for a while that tomorrow might still exist.
That night, his fear finally won. He told Assunta, "Bake something, whatever you can." Then he added the reason his voice shook. "Tomorrow is my daughter's name day, and I have nothing to give the children of this village. Nothing at all." Assunta didn't panic. She didn't waste time mourning what she didn't have.
She looked at the sack, weighed it with her eyes, and understood immediately what most people would understand too. Even if she stretched every last bit, even if she baked the biggest loaf she could, it would feed only a few families. Maybe 1 family well, maybe 2 with leftovers.
She also understood something less obvious, something her mother had taught her years before, kneading dough in a kitchen that smelled like hope instead of war.
Bread can be stretched, not forever, not by pretending reality doesn't exist, but by knowing what you're doing, how to change texture, how to use what you have without making people suffer. Bread is almost magical like that when you treat it as a craft instead of a luxury. Assunta had potatoes. Not much, but enough. She had mashed boiled potatoes she'd saved with care. She had olive oil, a spoonful at a time. Oil that was precious because it wasn't easy to come by, and because it carried flavor and softness that dry winter could steal.
She also had the knowledge in her hands, the kind you can't buy with money.
That night, Assunta lit the candle on her own table. Not a tiny village tribute, but a working flame in the kitchen. Her daughters woke near midnight to the sound of her movements, the steady rhythm of hands pressing and folding dough, the quiet thump of a bowl set down with care. Assunta didn't tell her daughters to go back to sleep. She told them to keep working, because working was what kept hunger from winning. She mixed the small amount of flour with the mashed potatoes, turning it into a dough that could stretch farther than straight flour ever could.
The potatoes helped soften it, make it tender enough to feel like bread instead of punishment.
Then she added that spoonful of olive oil, slowly, as if measuring was also a kind of respect. Olive oil kept the loaf from becoming hard and lifeless too quickly, helped it stay edible in a world where fresh could suddenly become a memory. And most important, she didn't bake one heroic loaf. She baked many small ones, dozens of small rolls, each barely the size of a fist. It mattered because Santa Rosa was a village. It wasn't an idea. It was people standing at doorways, families sharing streets, neighbors who knew when someone's child had last eaten and when someone's pot had run dry.
If Assunta made one large loaf, it would be beautiful, but it would land in just a few hands. One person could cut it and share it, sure, but sharing has limits when everyone is hungry at once.
A loaf might feed a family. A loaf could be divided. But the village needed something that could travel from house to house without losing its worth. Small rolls could be carried. Small rolls could be given to more people without anyone feeling like they were taking too much. Assunta understood that generosity isn't only about having, it's also about distribution. It's logistics built out of love. The oven, which had been cold for weeks, finally warmed up. The first dough went in, and the kitchen filled with that familiar promise. Heat rising, crust beginning. The scent of something alive. By the time dawn crept in, Assunta had worked through a small miracle. She placed her baskets near the door and stepped outside into streets that looked frozen in place, as if even time had slowed down. Children were the first to notice. They ran barefoot or half-shod from their houses, still wearing the night clothes they'd slept in. They didn't even wait to be fully awake. The smell of baking, real bread, warm and yeasty, even if it wasn't rich, pulled them out like a spell. Mothers came after, shawls wrapped tight, eyes wide. Some had that expression people get when they almost don't trust what they're seeing, like their bodies know hunger and don't easily believe in relief. Assunta stood in the bakery doorway with baskets of small, warm rolls. And then she did what she'd done every year before the war, only with the stakes turned up until they hurt. One by one, she handed a roll to each pair of outstretched hands. No extra for herself, no save some for later, that would later become save none. Her daughters stood close enough to feel their mother's presence, close enough to learn what kind of strength this really was. All the old accounts say the same thing. Nearly 60 families received bread that morning from a sack of flour that should have fed only a few.